All right, hello everybody. Welcome back. It is currently 10 a.m. on May 7th. It is the day after Edmonton's game 1 with Vegas, and we're continuing on with the series previews first. I will be recording the Oilers post-game video right after this one, but I need to edit this video and then schedule it for release before the Dallas game tonight, and then we're done with the series previews. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited for this series. I think this series has potential to be the best series in this second round. I think it sort of comes down to how good or bad Winnipeg plays. Um, I did watch a fair amount of the Winnipeg Blues series. I didn't watch that much of the earlier stages of the Colorado-Dallas series, mainly because Colorado and Edmonton tended to play together throughout the first round, so I was always prioritizing the Oilers games. As we've been doing with the series previews, we're going to go offense, defense, goaltending, special teams, and work our way through. I'll tell you guys who I think is going to win the series and why, and yeah, that'll kind of do it. So I'll start off by saying that I do think the Dallas Stars are going to win this series in 6 games. That's my prediction. I do think it could be a 7-game series if Winnipeg plays up to kind of their more regular standard. Sort of depends on a few factors. Obviously, Winnipeg hasn't been 100% healthy all playoffs. They got Gabe Vilardi back in the lineup in Game 5, then Scheifele gets injured. And Ehlers hadn't played a game in the first round until Scheifele was already hurt. So with Ehlers back, with Vilardi back, you'd like to hope that Scheifele can be back for tonight's game. Then you've got a full forward group going for the Jets. Josh Morrissey also was hurt in the early stages of Game 7, but according to Daily Faceoff lineups, it looks like he's back. So we'll see what happens with their lineup. And then obviously the number one question mark is what is Connor Hellebuyck going to provide for this Winnipeg team? Is he going to play good? Is he going to play bad? That's a massive, massive question mark that we have going into this series. So, as always, we will start off with the Athletic graphic that we always do. This article by The Athletic, which will be linked in the description, the model that is used has this being the closest series of this second round. We talked about the Oilers series in my video from yesterday, and how it was a 52-48 split. 52% odds for Edmonton to win the series, 48% for Vegas. Well, in the case here, we've got a 51% for Dallas, 49% for Winnipeg, which is absolutely crazy that it's that close of a split. And honestly, if we get hockey, if the Jets play the way they played against the Blues in the first round, that is a very, very generous odds for them. They will not be able to compete with Dallas the way that Dallas played in that first round, 100%. Looking at the chart now, which will be up on the screen, a massive, massive difference in the offensive rating between Dallas and Winnipeg. Dallas with the much better offensive numbers throughout the regular season. They have the higher goals, and more expected goals for. They have a slightly higher Corsi, better shooting percentage. Winnipeg does have more power play goals for, but Dallas does have the higher expected power play goals for. And we'll get into their power play percentages and stuff like that for the playoffs so we can see who's been clicking in the actual postseason. Defensively, it's in favor of Winnipeg. They have the better. Now, with this said, this number is probably somewhat skewed by how good Hellebuyck was in the regular season. We all know how good Hellebuyck was. Hellebuyck is a Hart Trophy candidate. He is the Vezina winner. I don't even need to wait for that award to be announced. But then we know that his play drops off when it comes to the playoffs. So I do think that these, like the goals against here, 1.72, that's got to be skewed by how good Connor Hellebuck was in the regular season. But they have the better goals against, the better expected goals against. They also have the better Corsi. So by that, what that means is they do a better job of like suppressing high danger chances. Obviously, a better save percentage, kind of, not really surprising. And their PK, they tend to allow more PK goals than Dallas, and they're slightly expected to allow more expected power penalty kill goals against. So you can see there the net rating at the bottom of the chart when it kind of takes everything into consideration. It's a very, very close outcome. But like I said, I feel like the model is being kind of generous. The way that the Jets played in the first round doesn't really instill a whole lot of confidence in me as a non-fan that they're going to be able to play against Dallas and compete that much. A 6-game series is still a highly competitive series. Like I said, I do think we could see Winnipeg push for 7. It comes down to Connor Hellebuck first and foremost, and then also is followed up by, will a complete forward group for the Jets be able to keep up with one of the deepest forward groups in Dallas? Just trying to skim the article here. I didn't read it before I started. They say here in the article, the big question is, can Connor Hellebuck bounce back? That's no mystery. Like, that is the biggest storyline in this series, no question about it. He had a really solid finish to Game 7, to be honest. After he allowed those first 2 goals, he kind of locked it down and gave the Jets a real chance to get back in that game, and they obviously took advantage of that and managed to get the win. But he also played great in those 2 overtime periods after. So if he can carry that play into this second round, which he has to do, like, with all due respect to the St. Louis Blues, Dallas is a much different team. They're much more dangerous. And you're going to need Connor Hellebuck to be even more so on his A game to give yourselves a real chance of beating the Dallas Stars. But one of the interesting things about these two teams, and we'll get into this a little bit as we move forward, Dallas and Winnipeg are both injured. Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen were both absent from the entirety of the Colorado series, which is a big reason why I'm not giving Winnipeg the best odds here. Dallas managed to beat the Colorado Avalanche, who were my West favorites. I had them winning the Western Conference in my bracket. They beat the Colorado Avalanche without their best defenseman, who I think is a top 5, top 4. I think he's top 3. That might get some hate. I think Miro Heiskanen is a top 3 defenseman on the planet. And they were missing Jason Robertson, who's probably their second best forward behind Mikko Rantanen. Those are substantial losses, and they still went toe-to-toe with Colorado and won. With Winnipeg, you were missing Velarde and Ehlers for a majority of the series, who are 2 of your top 6 forwards. And then Scheifele went down when those 2 guys came back, and you played the pretty much entirety of Game 7 without Josh Morrissey, who is probably a top 7 defenseman on earth. So injuries were both a factor in these teams' first rounds. How much will it play a factor in the second round? I think that's kind of one of the other really big kind of questions to look at. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the forward groups of these two teams, compare them, talk about what we like better, and give an offensive edge to one of these two teams. Starting with Dallas, I only have one up at a time on my screen. You guys obviously can see both. We've got a first line of Hintz, Rantanen, and Granlund. The Finnish line. All these guys are Finns. This line played really good against Colorado from what I saw. Mikko Rantanen obviously had 11 points in the last 3 games of the series to help push Dallas over the edge. But overall, like, all 3 of these guys have been having good years. Mikael Granlund kind of revitalized his career this year, which was really great to see. Then we have a second line, a bit more of a veteran line, Duchesne with Benn and Seguin. Ben and Seguin can still play, and I've consistently been impressed with Matt Duchesne's game ever since he came to Dallas. That third line of Wyatt Johnston, Mason Marchment, and we can see Jason Robertson with the yellow triangle on his jersey, I think that means that he's like a possibility for game one tonight. So we could see Jason Robertson back today. But like the fact that you've got Wyatt Johnston and Jason Robertson on your third line is just absurd. Just goes to show the depth that this team has. And then still a solid fourth line in Oscar Bach, I believe that's how you say his name, Sam Steele, and Yevgeny Dodonov. Not a bad fourth line. Not the best fourth line in the NHL, but you can't really complain. I mean, this forward core is very like self-explanatory. You don't really need to say a whole lot for it. It kind of does the talking itself. I'm a really big fan of a lot of the players on this group, and this is going to be a tough challenge for the Jets to deal with. Now, if I pull up the Jets forward group, and you guys already can see it, I mean, it's definitely not as good. Now, with that said, Mark Scheifele, if I scroll to the bottom, he is listed as day-to-day. So it's possible we see him back for game one, I guess. I'll check what it says. Let's see. Okay, so he is considered a game time decision for tonight's game. So we could see Scheifele in the lineup tonight. In the event that he is in the lineup, I would imagine he'll slot back in on the first line with Connor and Velarde. But, so I guess we'll go about the lines as if he's playing. Scheifele with Connor and Velarde is a really solid first line. Scheifele and Connor had really, really great first rounds. Velarde was kind of meh upon his return, in my opinion. Then you'd have Nemestikov in the second line center spot with Perfetti and Ehlers. Really, really great second line. I've actually been very impressed with Nemestikov's game. And, I mean, Perfetti was huge in the Game 7 win. He scored 2 goals, including the tying goal with a second left. And then Nikolai Ehlers is just a great player. I'm very high on Ehlers. I love that second line. Barron, Appleton, it'll be Lowry, Appleton, and Niederreiter. Really good third line. I think Adam Lowry is a great player. Very, very reliable in a lot of different situations. And then Appleton and Niederreiter are both solid, bottom six players. And then that fourth line would be Barron with Tanev and Iafallo. Again, not a bad fourth line by any means. As an Oilers fan, I watched Iafallo on the Kings for a few years, and he was never a fourth liner. So the fact that you've got him on your fourth line goes to show that you are also a deep offensive team. But with all of this taken into consideration, I am still going to give the forward matchup to Dallas. I think Dallas is the better team offensively. I do think that the Jets, I think the important matchup for Winnipeg is the second lines. I think that Nemestikov, Perfetti, and Ehlers need to be effective against that Duchesne, Ben, and Seguin line if that's what the matchups have. But that's obviously to be seen. But I will give the offense to the Dallas Stars. I do think they're the better offensive team here. No question about it. Moving into the defense, I'll start with Winnipeg. As you can see, Josh Morrissey with the yellow triangle on his jersey as well, so I would imagine he is going to play tonight, or at least it's a possibility, which is huge for Winnipeg. We've got Morrissey and DeMello as the first pairing, Samberg with Neil Pionk second pairing, and then Hayden Fleury is in. I believe Logan Stanley is day-to-day, so Hayden Fleury is in his spot with Luke Schenn. So, as I said, Josh Morrissey, fantastic player, highly rated defenseman. I would argue, honestly, he could be considered top 5, especially this year. I don't know about the last couple if you were to take the data from a few years, but this past year, I'd say that's very fair. DeMello is not a bad defenseman by any means. I really like this second pairing, though. Dylan Samberg has been really, really good this year. I feel like he's definitely gone under the radar. And then Neil Pionk, I know we can talk about how his contract he just signed, maybe it's a bit of an overpay, but you forget we're paying guys to live in Winnipeg. Winnipeg is probably the least enticing location in the entire NHL. So you are always going to have to pay guys a little bit extra to get them to stay in Winnipeg. But Neil Pionk is still a really good defenseman. I really like this second pair. And then Hayden Fleury, I thought, played a phenomenal game in Game 7. He was the only Jet, in my opinion, that looked like he was in that game from the start. And then Luke Shen has honestly been semi-effective in this series despite, his age and whatnot. So I like this decor from the Winnipeg Jets. I think it's pretty consistent. I think it's pretty strong. And when stacking it up against the decor that it's playing against, I mean, well, let's look at it right now. So Miro Heiskanen not listed here. I'm not sure what his status is. If we go click on his jersey, I'll go try and get an idea. Doubtful for game one. So there you go. Not going to be seeing Heiskanen tonight. So we're running with Thomas Harley, who is a fantastic defenseman, arguably top 10. Ilya Lyubushkin, not great. Esa Lindell, great defenseman, top 20 in the league, maybe top like 17, you could argue. Cody Ceci, not great. And then that third pairing of Leon Bichel. I like Bichel. He's really young. He's got a lot of room to grow. And then Alex Petrovic, not great. The right side in Dallas is probably the worst right side of any decor in the NHL. It is absolutely terrible. I honestly, I can't help but laugh. Like, how did this team with this decor manage to get by Colorado? I've got no idea, but they did, and that's all that really matters. I mean, the defense is obviously Winnipeg's to take. Defensively, their core is just much more consistent, much more deep, much more fleshed out. And this, yes, Dallas doesn't have Heiskanen, but at best, with Heiskanen added, you're probably taking Petrovic out of the lineup. It's still not an amazing decor just by adding him. He is very good, and he is an X Factor type of player, but just not an ideal decor when you're trying to compete for a Stanley Cup. Moving into special teams, Dallas has a 30.4% power play through the first round. Not bad by any means. That'll hold. They have an 86.4% PK, though. Their PK is very good. Their power play is very good. Their special teams have been absolutely clicking in the playoffs. The Winnipeg Jets have a 22.7% power play and a 76.9% penalty kill. So it is very easy to give the special teams matchup to the Dallas Stars. They have been better in both areas of the ice on the kill or on the power play. I like when they make it easy for me like that. It's pretty much a no-brainer to give that one to Dallas. Now, for the goaltending matchups, let me just pull up our two goalies in this series. Really good goaltending matchup, actually. We're kind of looking at maybe a duel for the starting job at the Olympics next year between Jake Ottinger and Connor Hellebuck, who are obviously up on your screen now. Jake Ottinger in the playoffs so far, 7 games played. He's got 4 wins, a 2.85 goals against average, and the 9.11 save percentage. Really, really, really good numbers from Jake Ottinger. He played fantastic through that first round pretty consistently. Looking at his regular season, 58 games played, he had a 2.59 goals against average and a 9.09 save percentage. So in a smaller sample size, he has a higher goals against average, but a higher save percentage. And I think that just kind of goes to show that Colorado was a dangerous offensive team. And then if we pull up Connor Hellebuck, just give me 1 second here. I should have had 2 tabs open, but whatever. It's not a problem. Connor Hellebuck, we all know it wasn't going to be pretty. A 3.85 goals against average and an 830 save percentage in 7 games. Absolute nightmare stuff from a Hart candidate and Vezina winner, essentially winner. For the season, though, 63 games played, he had a 925 save percentage and 2 goals against average. Unbelievable numbers. If both goalies are playing at their best in this second round, Winnipeg wins the goaltending matchup, obviously. When Connor Hellebuck is playing at his best, he is the best goalie on earth. If we get play from the 2 first rounds, Dallas will take the goaltending matchup, but it's very close. Because of variables, because of the potential for Hellebuck to wake up and have a good second round, I am going to give the goaltending matchup a tie. I'm not going to give it to Winnipeg. We're going to take into consideration that Hellebuck doesn't usually play well in the playoffs, but I'm going to give Connor Hellebuck the benefit of the doubt one last time. If he lets me down again, I'm done with it. Goaltending matchup, I'm going to give it a draw. With this all said, I think it's pretty obvious why I think Dallas is going to win this series in 6 games. if things click for the Winnipeg Jets, then they could definitely win this series, but I wouldn't say that I'm overly confident in that. So give me Dallas in 6. The series kicks off tonight, I believe, at 9:30 Eastern time. I'm actually quite excited to watch it. I am gonna miss the Leafs game, or at least majority of the Leafs game tonight. So hopefully nothing crazy happens. I'll have to watch the highlights after to be able to talk about it. But if you guys have been enjoying the content, it would be amazing if you guys could leave a subscription and leave a comment who you think is going to win this series. And if you could leave a like, that would be absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, I'm going to go right after this. Going to go and record my Oilers post game video for yesterday's game. So if that type of thing interests you, keep an eye out on the channel for that. And I will catch all of you guys in the next one.